She baked cookies for soldiers abroad. Then a Black Hawk helicopter landed in her backyard. Emma Thompson's hands shook a bit more than they used to. But at 71, she could still roll cookie dough with the skill that made her a legend in Willow Creek, Iowa. Her tiny kitchen glowed with the sweet smell of vanilla and cinnamon as sunlight slipped through old checkered curtains she'd sewn years ago. Widowed for 15 years after cancer took her husband, Robert, Emma lived alone in the small two-bedroom house where they'd raised their only son, Daniel. The walls still held Daniel's photos, from his gap-toothed kindergarten shots to his proud pose in marine dress blues. Daniel had followed his father's military path, serving bravely until 2007, when a roadside bomb in Afghanistan ended his life at 23. After teaching second grade for 40 years at Willow Creek Elementary, Emma retired to a simple life. Her pension covered her needs, letting her give to the local church and volunteer at Maple Grove Retirement Home every Wednesday. But her baking was what truly made her special in town. Her pies won the county fair's blue ribbon 11 years in a row. And her Christmas cookies were the talk of Willow Creek. One cold evening in 2015, Emma sat alone watching the news. A story showed soldiers in Syria, young faces in dusty uniforms squinting into the desert sun. One soldier, barely older than Daniel had been, gave a shy smile and said he missed his mom's chocolate chip cookies. Emma's eyes filled with tears, her tea forgotten on the table. The soldier's face, brave yet homesick, reminded her of Daniel's last video call home. The next morning, she woke with a mission. By noon, she baked 24 chocolate chip cookies and a dozen sugar cookies, packed them in a tin with wax paper, and wrote a short note, for someone far from home. Stay safe, Emma T. At the post office, she asked for the address of the nearest military base. The clerk, a bit surprised, gave her the details for Fort Carson, 40 miles away. Emma paid for shipping. Her pension stretched a little tighter that month. No thank you note came. No reply at all. But the next Friday, Emma was back with another tin of cookies and another note. Week after week, she kept going. One tin became 2, then 3, as she pictured different soldiers opening them. She never spoke of Daniel directly. But on each box, she wrote, for those serving quietly, from a mother who once waited for her son. Not everyone got why she did it. Her neighbor of 20 years, Clara Benson, shook her head one day as Emma loaded cookies into her old sedan. You really think they eat all those cookies? Clara asked, leaning on her garden fence. Sounds like a waste of flour to me. At the post office, Sarah Miller, who'd been Emma's student years ago, handled her packages with a sad smile. Nobody's thanked you yet, have they, Mrs. Thompson? Sarah said. People don't value things like they used to. Emma just smiled. That's not why I do it. Sarah. Months turned into years, and Emma's Friday routine became as steady as the town's church bells. She never missed a week, not during the big snowstorm of 2017. When she shoveled her car out of deep drifts. Not during her pneumonia in 2019. When she baked sitting on a stool. Not even in 2020. When the world stopped, and the post office cut its hours. 8 years, 416 Fridays. 416 tins of love sent to strangers in the same uniform her son had worn when he died. The kind ones often pay the most, Emma told her cat, Whiskers, as she tied a ribbon around another tin. But sometimes it's the only path they know. One Thursday night, Emma's arthritis flared up badly. Her swollen fingers struggled to write her usual note. The pen slipped, smudging ink across the card. Too tired to rewrite it, she added a small line. My son loved these before he fell in Afghanistan. That tin traveled far, bouncing through military mail until it landed at Forward Operating Base Mirage in northern Iraq. Captain Ethan Carter was there, on his third deployment, having the worst day of his career. A mission had gone wrong, not a disaster, but enough to make him doubt himself. When the mail arrived, he almost skipped the dented cookie tin mixed with official letters. But something about the handwriting, like his grandmother's, made him pause. The cookies inside were a bit crumbled but still good. It was the smudged note that hit him hard. My son loved these before he fell in Afghanistan. Ethan set the tin down, his hands unsteady. 8 years ago, as a new lieutenant, he'd served in Afghanistan with the 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, the same unit listed on the box's return address. He scrolled through his phone until he found an old unit photo. There, third from the left in the back row, was Lance Corporal Daniel Thompson. The memory flooded back, the patrol, the explosion, the medevac that didn't make it in time. Daniel had saved 2 Marines that day. Spotting the bomb and yelling a warning. His last words, fading from pain, were about his mom's cookies and how he'd promised to share them with his unit when he got home. Ethan sat alone that night. The tin opened beside him. He wondered how many of Emma's cookies he'd eaten over the years without knowing. He wondered if she knew her son was a hero. He wondered if anyone had told her his sacrifice saved other families from the grief she'd faced. Back in Willow Creek, Emma's quiet work was starting to draw the wrong kind of attention. A local blog post called, "Iowa Woman Plays Soldier's Mom," claimed she was chasing fame. The writer, who never spoke to Emma, called her efforts showy patriotism, meant to grab headlines. The post spread around town. Emma first noticed the change at Parker's Hardware, where she'd bought baking supplies for years. They suddenly didn't have the vanilla extract she needed. "Maybe try online," the owner's son said with a shrug. "We don't want to get mixed up in anything political." "Political?" Emma echoed, confused. "It's just vanilla, Tom." Even at church, where she'd taught Sunday school for 30 years, people grew distant. No one mentioned her cookies during prayer requests anymore. The silence was quiet but real. Emma's grandniece, Lily, visiting from college, saw it right away. "Aunt Emma, aren't people supporting your cookie project anymore?" she asked over Sunday dinner. Emma sliced her chicken slowly. "People have their own worries. Lily, doesn't it make you mad? After all this time?" Emma's smile was soft, a little sad. "I'm not mad, dear, as long as someone remembers Daniel. That's enough." The next Tuesday, a plain envelope appeared in Emma's mailbox. Inside was a short letter. "Mrs. Thompson, I served with your son in Afghanistan. Your cookies saved my life last week when I was thinking of giving up. Knowing someone cares enough to bake for strangers gave me strength to get help. Please don't stop." Tucked inside was a worn Marine Corps emblem Emma knew well. It had been Daniel's. Thought lost with his things. She pressed it to her heart and cried, telling no one about the letter. She placed the emblem in Daniel's memory box and kept baking. As winter neared, the blog post popped up again, this time with a video. Someone had secretly filmed Emma at the post office, carefully arranging her packages. A voice off camera mocked, "Hey, old lady, when will you see nobody cares about your cookies?" Emma's face in the video stayed calm, but her hands shook as she finished. The video spread locally, drawing mean comments from people who knew nothing of Daniel, nothing of Emma's silent grief, nothing of the letter hidden in her Bible that proved one soldier was saved by her kindness. Every Friday, Emma kept going, mixing, baking, packing, sending. Her doctor warned her about pushing too hard. "Mrs. Thompson, at your age, with your arthritis, this baking marathon is wearing you down." Emma smiled. "Some aches are worth carrying, doctor." Each batch held memories. Daniel as a kid, baking with her on rainy days as a teen, sneaking dough from the bowl on his last visit home, helping her tweak a sugar cookie recipe. Each ribbon she tied carried a mother's love that wouldn't let death have the final word. "As long as soldiers are far from home," she told Whiskers, tying another ribbon, "someone should show they matter." One freezing Friday in November, Emma woke with her joints aching fiercely. Her arthritis, worse than ever, made moving hard, and snow was forecast by noon. Still, she got up at 5 a.m., determined to keep her routine. By mid-morning, she'd baked her cookies but struggled to carry the tins to her car. The first tin slipped, crashing to the kitchen floor, cookies scattering like broken dreams. Emma sank into a chair, defeated for the first time in 8 years. She thought about skipping a week. Lily, staying with her during college break, found Emma crying among the spilled cookies. "Aunt Emma, maybe it's time to rest," Lily said softly, kneeling beside her. "You've done so much. No one would judge you." Emma wiped her eyes with a floury hand. "Once a week," she said, her voice steady despite her frail body. "It gives me a reason to keep going." Lily's heart broke. She helped clean the mess and drove Emma to the post office. In town, opinions about Emma had hardened. Some saw her as a stubborn old woman stuck on a pointless habit. Others thought she wanted attention. Few understood the grief driving her. The next Thursday, Emma baked with Lily's help to pack the tins. That night, she slept fitfully, dreaming of Daniel's laugh and the faint sound of helicopters. Friday morning was clear and cold. Emma was sipping tea when a low rumble shook her dishes. The noise grew louder, a rhythmic thumping that rattled her windows. "Aunt Emma," Lily shouted from upstairs, "something's happening outside." Emma stepped onto her back porch as a huge Black Hawk helicopter landed in her small yard. Its blades bent her apple tree and whipped leaves into tiny storms. Neighbors poured out, some in pajamas, all stunned. Clara Benson stood frozen at her fence. Down the street, someone was already filming. As the blades slowed, 6 soldiers in sharp dress uniforms stepped out, medals shining in the morning light. The leader, a captain with "Carter" on his name tag, carried a wooden plaque. Emma stood still on her porch steps as Captain Carter approached and saluted. "Mrs. Emma Thompson?" he asked, though he knew her face. Emma nodded, clutching her sweater against the wind from the helicopter. "I'm Captain Ethan Carter, ma'am. I was the last surviving member of your son's squad in Afghanistan." The words hit Emma like a wave. After 15 years of silence about Daniel's service, here was someone who'd known him in his final moments. Captain Carter's voice carried to the growing crowd. "Mrs. Thompson, 8 years ago, you started sending cookies to soldiers. You didn't know your cookies reached your son's old unit several times." He paused, his voice thick. "Last year, I got a package with a smudged note about your son. That's when I knew who you were and what you've been doing." Emma's knees buckled. Lily steadied her as Captain Carter went on. "Before your son died, he talked about you. He said you baked cookies for his whole little league team. Win or lose, he promised to bring your cookies for us when he got home." His voice cracked. "Mrs. Thompson, without knowing it, you kept your son's promise." The neighbors gasped. Clara Benson covered her mouth, tears falling. "The last package came on the anniversary of a mission in Kabul where Daniel's warning saved 3 of our men. We were holding a memorial when your cookies arrived. It felt like he was there." Captain Carter signaled, and the other soldiers stepped forward. They carried a folded flag, a shadow box with medals, and photos of soldiers holding Emma's cookie tins. "Mrs. Thompson, over 8 years, your cookies reached troops in 7 countries. They were shared in tough times, holidays away from family, after hard missions, in storms and battles." He handed her the plaque, engraved, "Emma Thompson, Mother of Honor, for unwavering support of American troops, 2015 to 2023. This isn't an official award, ma'am, it's more. It's from over 3,000 service members touched by your kindness." Another soldier stepped from the helicopter, holding a large leather book. Captain Carter explained, "This has messages from everyone we could find who got your cookies. Some wrote pages, some just their names. All wanted you to know someone noticed." The book held hundreds of notes. Photos of soldiers with Emma's cookies in far-off places. Letters of thanks. Stories of how a cookie brought a piece of home to hard times. A reporter in the crowd shouted, "Mrs. Thompson, how does it feel to be recognized?" Emma, leaning on Lily, thought before answering. "I never wanted recognition," she said softly but firmly. "I just did what any mother would. I kept a promise my son couldn't." Captain Carter nodded. "That's why we're here, ma'am, to thank you and to say your son's spirit has been with us through your hands." His promise was kept. The crowd fell silent, many crying. Among them were the hardware store owner who'd refused her vanilla, the church folks who'd pulled away, and somewhere in the back, the blogger whose harsh words had spread. As the sun rose higher, casting shadows across Emma's yard, Willow Creek began to see her differently. They saw how deeply they'd misjudged the quiet woman who never sought praise, never stopped believing small acts of kindness matter, even when they seemed to disappear. In the days after the helicopter landed, Emma's life shifted quietly. News trucks lined her street, and TV shows asked for interviews. Emma turned them down gently. "I didn't do it for cameras," she told Lily. "I won't start now." Without fuss, she kept her Friday routine. But now, help came unexpectedly. Baking supplies appeared on her porch. Premium vanilla from the hardware store that once turned her away. Butter and eggs from Clara Benson's chickens. Even fancy chocolate sent from Belgium by a soldier's grateful family.